All right, we should be recording, so let's get this called up. So, if we all can't meet in person, here we are. We're in the Oak Ridge Manufacturing Engineering Technology Lab. We got Aaron Palm behind the monitor there, Joe Hackman in the middle. I don't know the other folks that were invited if you want to watch this video after the fact to weigh in on things, but here we go. Should be seeing my screen here in a moment. Oops, hold on. Presenting now, the entire screen. There we go. And then we're gonna see, and then it's gonna do this hilariously funny infinite screen there. All right, get off of that. So, we'll be referring to, and I put links and I can make sure to email everybody, but I've been posting into this Trello board where all the information pertinent to what we're going to talk about tonight primarily is the Strong Workforce Program grant, where we are going after $400,000. And we'll talk about the plan for how to use that money in a moment here, but if you need any of the background info here, this Trello board has links to quotations that I've just gotten off the Haas website, which will be probably the primary focus of our attention. I've got a link here also then to a spreadsheet I have put together with the kind of budgeting out and notes and links to these different things here, so there's background information. And also, importantly here, the actual wording of our grant proposal that is being put together at our district office by Terry Lillywhite and Chris Moore. And so all of you, hopefully I've shared this as a view only to everybody else outside the district. And you can take a look at the wording of all the things and justifications we're doing to go after this grant funding. And you can see what the state is going to be asking us in order to qualify. So, and even our employers that I'm going to name out and call out specifically as supporters of this process. Cool. So, where do you guys want me to start or help to explain?
Well, I think we should start with what we're going to be asking for.
Yep.
And what we're asking of the advisory committee is to give us their input and feedback on if we're asking for the right stuff.
Sure. Okay, so stepping back there. Okay, so I've got, based off of our spreadsheet here, and part of the justification I'm going to provide to the state, I currently have one fully operational enclosed vertical machining center, a Haas TM2P. I've got an additional one that's an open bed system that I call semi-operable because it scares me to use it with some of the new students being open bed. It doesn't have the same controller as the other one. It's the older style like open tool room system that its controller is different than most of the other manufacturing or industry ones that are out there now, and you can't even buy that model anymore. So that one I'm willing to part with. But with only that one operable vertical machining center and potentially classes of 30 kids, I don't have a good enough ratio to actually have enough kids get hands-on the equipment to get any sort of functional muscle memory or experience running them. More than just a tacit push the button, come back a couple weeks later, push the button again. So what I'm asking for using this grant funding is going to be 4 more CNC vertical machining centers that I'm leaving. We're more than likely going to be going with Haas machine tools. There's a couple contingencies here that in order to get either at the high end of the machine, we would get a VF1 if we can get a new access to the shop floor, which we don't currently have to get that size machine in. If we can't get that done, it would be a Mini Mill 2 probably, 4 of those. Now, $70,000 for the budgeting of each of them. I think we can get pretty well built equipment. And I was talking with Joe and Principal Palm earlier about how I think we can press on Sellway to get some more options tacked on that otherwise would take those machines to much higher price bracket, but we might be able to work with them to get more options on them. I have multiple employers that have been asking me about 5-axis programming and competency, so that's going to be a big chunk on its own. On these links here, I've got the links to the specific Haas auxiliary stuff. So specifically, the HRT SP for a 4th axis. Come on, give me the link. So if you click on these links here, it will come up to the actual quotation. Now, embedded in this quotation is also fixturing that will make these things work better, so just rolling that all up into one. But That's there. And then to get just basic, so I know that Sierra College has two, I think, UMC 750s, 5-axis machines from Haas. I don't need to go nearly that far, but the TRT little 5-axis machine, I know that Dan Frank has one of these now over at Rockland too. I think this is going to be a perfect thing to give my students the exposure here, that if they do go on to Sierra College, they're going to be well versed. And companies like Tri-Tool have been banging on me to find out who do I know that knows 5-axis programming stuff. So local employers are using this stuff more frequently, and they are struggling to find people that are trained. And even as I talk to Snowline Engineering, and I think SVMI now has workforce development grants available to them to either retrain adults that are already in the industry or retrain people locally. I would like to be able to provide those types of services here too, so we don't have to go all the way over to Sierra to get that.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, so again, smaller groups of adults just getting the hands-on to learn how to use this here would be beneficial. So anyway, that's the rationale behind those. Taking up the remainder of the, bringing up the remainder of the, yes, we'll get to that in a second here. Nope. Here we go. So getting back to the remainder of where the money is going to go, there are some auxiliary items that I've communicated with Dan Frank and also Todd Frazee about some accessory items to immediately put on the machines to make them more effective, to make better use of our existing air compressor system so we don't have anything that cuts out on us. So Todd will help me figure out some of these if we land the grant and what it's going to take. There's a coolant ring, there's an add-on item for a third party that makes the coolant and stuff inside the machine work more effectively. There's another auxiliary item from a third-party company that also works really well that Rockland has. Now this stuff all gets very heavy, and I don't have good material handling like hydraulic lifts and stuff yet. So I've kind of put in just some money, $2,500 to get some sort of lifting mechanism, because that rotary axis is potentially up close to 100 pounds. Same thing with the 5-axis. We can't be hefting that into the machine. Like, we're going to need some storage and ways to manipulate that. Just plain and simple, the shops needed it. This is going to be fixturing for that 5th axis vise and stuff. I know that there's just going to be incidentals and hardware and cap screws and all sorts of other stuff that's going to be required. Now, I was told that we can roll in cutting tools to that.
Okay.
Theoretically, they're considered consumable, sort of, but Chris Moore seemed to say, hey, if it's a tool, we could get it in the grant. I'm like, all right, we'll roll that up. Rotary and vices, I might have gotten double hydraulic lift in there. Material storage racking too. I'm struggling here currently with all my long bars of where to put things and potentially heavy stuff. And then, yeah, even coming back up a few here, the standard mill vices, these were just going to be Kurt standard things. Having 8 of them, so 2 potentially per machine to put on there is going to be good. And then mill tool holders, this is kind of a generic throw-in. You can usually get these tacked on with the machines and what's called the tooling certificate, so I'm just budgeting another $5 grand to make sure that we got, on average, tool holders that are be about 50 bucks a piece. So Kennametal is one manufacturer that we might be able to work with that'll go along with that. And then it's likely that it's going to be machine moving and rigging is going to be a bit of an investment, but I don't know how that's rolled up in the quotation. It's literally what it takes to get here and have them install the equipment and move it around.
So when it all kind of comes out to we're asking for 400, comes out to 403, so if there's any changes, we don't have the ability to add anything, but
right.
We have the ability to potentially
take away,
exchange.
Right, we could reduce the number of mill vices potentially down, we could potentially reduce the number of tool holders and stuff and reduce that. We could get away without doing the surge tanks, I guess, but I think it's going to give us some buffer to our system. So yeah, and I might be able to cut out, I think I might have double counted like material handling stuff here. So, and then I don't know how it's going to roll in, if it's covered in the whole cost of the machine for the machine moving and rigging. There will be a little bit of room to wiggle.
Yeah.
So, and again, there's also some options on this machine that potentially, if push comes to shove, we dial back some of the options on the machines, and that'll buy us some more.
That's the Amazon Prime delivery is free.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll rely on, Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, we'll see how that works, or just, I don't know. But what I do also have in here is, I could look into some other expenses. Like I put another tab on this that's gonna say additional expenses not paid for with this particular grant. So we're gonna be looking at, and these are rough estimations on my end for right now. We're gonna have to do rewiring, but we're gonna be, by getting rid of some of the equipment that's currently here that's just not gonna be up to par with what we wanna do. We shouldn't have to add any new three-phase circuits, but we do have to rewire to the locations where the new ones are gonna go. So I think we should have more than enough electrical capacity to do this without anything more, but we are gonna have to run new electrical lines. We're gonna also have to run new compressed air lines, and in order to have long term, the third line item there is the addition of a rolling gate or larger doorway. In order to get bigger equipment in here, we'll need that at some point, or if we can't do that, then we gotta get it through the one set of double doors that we have here. So those are other areas that won't be covered in the grant, but will factor into what we do long term.
Can any of those, like if you, I think what was it called, the V1 or something like
Yeah,
that?
the VF1,
That's
yeah.
something where if it doesn't fit, it can be disassembled or reassembled.
Yeah, that's gonna be challenging, and you don't want it to show up here and then go, we
Right.
can't do that, like, so, I mean, the anecdotal thing was, yeah, how they got the TM2P in here is they had to remove the sheet metal to get it in here,
Right.
and that's a little bit more drastic than I wanna do. And it also has just been like, having improved access to the shop floor anyway has been something that's been on my mind. Just to get long bars of material able to come inside and be handled. So, anyway, any other questions on these things? Okay. So, where it gets back to actually going after the grant funding, this document is shared with everybody here. But you're going to see that they are asking for partnering agencies. So I think we've already locked down a letter of support from Sierra College. On this go around, it would be nice, but I don't have direct contacts with ARC yet, and I don't know that they have the precision machining side of stuff yet, so I don't know if it's going to be worth our while for this go around to try and line that up. But we've got our...
Yeah, SBMI is tight with their welding program.
Is tight with the welding program. Good.
So keep that in mind. Maybe
No,
we can go
so
that direction.
considering we're not touching on a huge amount of welding stuff on this particular go around.
But it might open the other side up for support.
So anyway, if we can do that, we have our educational partners at the county. We have at some point, it's likely that this is going to be an RFP program too, but that's going to have to wait. Now, I have called out specifically, and it's great, I have used direct quotation from the SVMI website about the fact that and with the link there, that its reason for being is to promote education. That's going to be good and helpful. Tim, I've thrown you up if you're going to watch this. I put you guys on as partners. Stuart Toole, Amber, when you're listening to this, you're directly listed. You can tell Joe Burnett that I'm throwing him down, and I'll email him. FMC is going to be on board. I just talked with Snowline today. And then the SME from you or whatever.
Absolutely.
Check. All right. So that's going to be helpful. Terry, I think Terry Lillywhite already has the language of that just form letter put together. So that's probably going to be heading out to people. And yeah, so I'm describing here, I wrote this up, that SVMI is definitely going to be that's what that organization one of its primary focuses is, and that's going to be helpful. Now, what we need to do is that if you all can help back up the fact, I think Chris Moore are looking at the industry sector and the needs associated with this. I think the state has posted their own information about those economic needs, but it wouldn't hurt to have very direct, like, hey, from this company, we cannot find 5-axis CNC programmers.
Quotes.
Huh?
Yeah.
Like quotations.
Yeah, like quotations from you all saying,
Positions.
yeah, and open positions, or we have been searching for people with these skill sets and we cannot find them
Yeah.
regionally. It is impacting our growth. That will help make our case. Because we are competing for these grant funds with all the 12 pathways, so if there's a cosmetology program that needs money, we are fighting them for dollars. and those resources. So
Manufacturing.
we need to make our case.
It's also.
Yeah, and if we have those,
Community.
I know, does SME still have those statistics? I know, and the other ones where it shows that manufacturing jobs have the fivefold.
Yeah, it
thing.
depends on the area.
The area.
That was done in the North State by
Was
Pro
that-
Manufacturing Initiative.
Okay.
So, and that's what inspired SVMI.
Okay,
But
perfect.
the statistics, depending on the area,
Yeah, right.
it can be huge.
Right,
But
right.
generally speaking, they're more than, they're like 10 times a retail
Okay.
job.
Right,
You
in
know,
terms of
and
return.
even more than IT jobs and
Mhm.
other things like that. So it's a very high return to the communities where
Right.
manufacturers are located.
On the investment, yeah. So anyway, so you'll see that we're being held also accountable because the educational environment is very much focused on equal access to information, and our school site here is very much focused on what are called special needs students or struggling students and all that. We can easily on our end make the case that these programs are really helping students along that aren't necessarily going to want to go on to four-year college or that are struggling in other academic environments, and are making it my goal to provide rigorous academic opportunities, but in a very different environment than what most students are forced to comply with. So I am currently trying to write in, and I don't really like we're dealing with the form letter of the language of what the state is asking for. Now, this is very much academic speak here. They're asking for various strategies of how we're going to fund, like what we're going to do and what our strategies are to improve our program. Pretty much what it boils down to me is adding more of this appropriate CNC technology to the program in quantities that improve student outcomes to actually learn the equipment and have tangible skills. I cannot currently do that with the one machine that I have.
Right. Where they can get sufficient time.
That they can get
a level
sufficient
of
time.
competency.
Correct. And that they can, for one, at the entry level class that we're going to have, realize that this is something that they want to do,
Mhm.
or that maybe this was a good try and they're going to try something else. But my hope is that as they progress through a series of classes with me, that it will get more and more concentrated in the kids that are truly committed to this, and I will then we'll work this out. And again, the school district wants to see me have classes of 32 students, which is challenging, but that's another case to make in the long term is, hey, even if there's only 20 to 24, even 16 students at the advanced level, that's what we want to see because they're going to get more usable skills, and we refine it down to the students we can actually
Absolutely.
employ, and we want them to get more smaller ratios with Mr. Foreman so that they're really well trained by the time they go or decide to go on to Sierra College or whatever. So that's a battle for another day, but anyhow, we've got some kind of canned language from the community college districts. They're wanting to see and that's where I'm struggling with these different strategies. I'm going to work with my friend Dan Frank to come up with better stuff on this. But I'm also then trying to justify, separate from those 4 vertical machining centers, that we need to go to a higher level even than that, and the 4 and 5 axis machining and programming, and that Sierra College also has those. If I wanted to allow the students to get in above just the basic level at Sierra College, I'm going to need to be able to teach the 4 and 5 axis. And as we were talking offline before the meeting, I think there's also benefit to having, because employers here locally on this side of town need to potentially train up their employees, it would be nice to have, I'll work it out with Principal Palm or however it works. I'm more than happy to host industry development trainings on 4 and 5 axis stuff here at Oak Ridge too in the future, because I do think that that's going to be an important service to offer here. Anyway, and then what we got to do is we've got to be providing how this equipment and stuff is going to be improving our pathway, and our pathway falls under what's called the product. I'm going to always get this wrong. Product design and manufacturing pathway, or product innovation and design pathway. So then we're going to have to explain out exactly what we're going to do, which I believe is just going to be stating the work that we're going to do is installing 4 vertical machining centers and all the associated tools, and there's like a 30-month time frame to get this implemented, and I think we will be if we get the money, it's gonna be cut order, have machines show up in 6 to 8 weeks or whatever, install them over the summer and be ready to roll in the fall.
That'd be awesome.
I hope. Anyhow.
Busy summer.
With everything happening around here this summer.
Yeah, right. So anyway, yeah, and then I'm gonna use that spreadsheet to populate and communicate all this or link to that. So in the short 20-minute spiel, that's kind of what we've got. And this needs to be done and complete and wrapped up by March 15th. So anyway, so that was the primary driver for this quick meeting that I think will hopefully pass out to everybody just so you can see what we've talked about. And then anybody that's watching this later, we'll send out the email to communicate any issues, or if you need the link to the Trello site, we can do that too as well.
When do you need feedback back by?
I don't know. I mean, I'm chipping away at this. Probably by the end of next week would be great, because that's already pressing into the end of February. I think what was going to end up happening. Yeah, so by the end of next week, a little bit of yes or no, or hey, way to go with the stuff that you spec'd out, or hey, I think we might be able to find more inexpensive stuff here. We could shuffle the numbers to really make sure that we get to 400,000 with a little bit of wiggle room. I'm game, but yeah, probably by the end of next week or midway through next week would be good, because I'm just chipping away at those explanations. And the other things, I've mentioned this to a few people through SVMI. It also shines nicely if we can prove and show those private supports. Like if SVMI is able to give us in-kind material donations, that helps us count that towards future grants. I mean, on this grant, and this is probably going to be a yearly ongoing thing for the next few years at least. This Strong Workforce Grant is going to be administered by the state every year for, I hope, the foreseeable future. So it's only going to help to have those formalities in place. So anyway. Anything else, or wrap it and post it?
Good.
All right.
Post.
Hopefully we caught the audio on that, everybody. So anyway, awesome.